How's it going, everybody? I'm Lewis, it's August, and we've got a new month ahead post from the Old School RuneScape team. So, August is here, and they've got an awful lot in store. The Grand Exchange web pages will be arriving later on this month, as well as Cerberus, the Hellhound boss. With Slayer updates like crazy, and the Zoom feature coming later this month, August is set to be a great one for all kinds of old school players. So let's get into the details, starting off with experience drops. Experience drops will be coming later on this week with a huge number of features for all experience tracking needs. From this Thursday, if you've got a minimap orbs enabled, you'll notice the addition of an XP button. Clicking this will display an experience tracker on your screen. You can right click the orb and select Setup to be given a wide selection of different settings for your experience tracker and drops. There are all sorts of options to let you customize your experience trackings and drops to best suit your needs. You can choose the size and position of the experience tracker, you can choose how long it appears for, whether it appears at all, which skills you're tracking, and the list goes on and on. And of course, when you gain experience, you'll see the amount of experience you gain rise up into the experience tracker if it's visible. If you're interested in the experience drops, you can watch a highlight from last week's Q&A stream where Modash ran through many of the different features that this update has. Now, I was under the impression that we were just getting a basic XP tracker like the original one in RuneScape 3. But it appears that we get a lot of settings to decide what skills we want to track, and it's probably a little bit more like the current one in RuneScape 3. However, there are various things that we don't have that RuneScape 3 has that allows theirs to be wildly different. So it'll be interesting to see how the Old School RuneScape XP tracker will be working. Next, Tzar and Zar tasks. Starting off with Zar tasks. The Zar Slayer task is an unlockable assignment that costs 100 points. After you unlock the task, both Neve and Joradel will be able to assign it. When assigned a Zar Slayer task, you'll be given the option to instead take on the challenge of the Fight Cave. Taking on this challenge and succeeding will land you with an additional 25,000 Slayer experience. Next, the Zer Jad. Tuztok Jad is one of the most feared creatures in all of RuneScape. It makes even the most experienced players tremble, panic and fumble. Defeating the boss is something that is truly noteworthy. Players that master the Fight Cave will now have a shot at getting themselves a Zer Jad, which is the Jad pet, with a small chance of receiving the pet when you slay Tuztok Jad, and another shot at receiving Zer Jad if you're willing to gamble a Fire Cape with Zar Mej Jal. These little volcanic critters will be few and far between. So this is allowing us to get some more interesting Slayer, and eventually getting that Tuztok Jad pet. Moving on, we've got Cerberus. Later on in August, we'll be seeing the release of Cerberus, the Hellhound boss. Cerberus is a solo Slayer boss that will throw a little excitement into the lives of high-level Slayers. With engaging mechanics and a lot to offer in terms of drops, Cerberus will certainly be making a splash. Hardcore PVMers with 91 plus Slayer will be able to access Cerberus when given a Hellhound Slayer task. It will be no easy feat to take on the boss, so make sure that you're ready to give it everything you've got. The signature drops of Cerberus include the items needed to create the new top tier of boots in Old School. Cerberus will also drop the Smouldering Stone used to create the Dragonfire Axe and Pickaxe. If you want to see a lot more behind the scene images of Cerberus and his lair, follow Mod Alfred's Twitter feed, @JagexAlfred. For now, we just have to hold tight until mid-August when they expect to be unleashing Cerberus onto Old School. Next, we've got Zoom. A common request since the release of Resizable mode has been the ability to zoom in and out. Later on, in the month, they'll be making this possible. Using your mouse wheel or a slider found in your settings, you'll be able to determine how zoomed in your camera is in both fixed mode and resizable mode. The addition of Zoom to Old School will be a great addition to resizable mode, and will once again open up the world even more. Now, I think Zoom's an interesting idea with Old School. Personally, I wouldn't really want to use that much Zoom. Maybe I'll want to alter it slightly, but not much. However, I worry from the way that they've worded this that they're not going to be polling this. Hopefully they will, and I'm just being slightly paranoid. I have in the past thought, oh no, they're not going to poll this, and then luckily they have. I think generally if they do an update that's unpolled, they don't really give us much warning. They just do it. Something I really dislike. However, I'm hoping with them putting Zoom in this post, then they will be polling it later on in the month. Anyway, that's probably me just slightly paranoid. Let's move on to Boss Slayer. Bosses are always a fun time in Old School. Alongside Slayer, they make up most of the attractive PVM content in the game. So, hey, why not combine the two? Later on this month, they'll be releasing an unlockable Boss Slayer assignment. Once unlocked, it will be possible for Neve and Jorodel to set you a task of any of the bosses found in the boss log, excluding the corporeal beast. As the experience rates at bosses will not be particularly great, upon completing a boss task you will be rewarded with an additional 5,000 Slayer experience. This update will serve to spice up the lives of all avid Slayers. So if you're an avid Slayer, grab your brews, ready your whips, Boss Slayer is coming. Next we've got the Grand Exchange web pages. For many players, the Grand Exchange is a lovely thing. Quick access to all the items you could ever need. To provide as much information as possible on all of the items found in the Grand Exchange, they're going to be releasing a Grand Exchange section on the Old School website. So it looks like these pages are going to be very similar to what the GE had in around 2008. Being able to search for many items, and when you actually find an item you want, you'll be able to see the price history of that day, the month, the last 3 months, and the last 6 months, with certain graphs telling you things such as the average price and the amount traded for that item. So anyone that really uses the Grand Exchange should be looking forward to these Grand Exchange pages going live later on this month. Again, I'm slightly worried they're not going to be holding that. One could argue that it's not really a change to the game, however I would argue that it is a feature of Old School and it could affect the way that people use the Grand Exchange. For example, they might be able to track prices of items better and decide what they're going to merchant. Therefore, prices of items could change based on this web page. Looks like a decent month ahead. We finally got some of the Slayer items coming in and I can't wait for that. We'll be getting experience drops after such a long time of not having them. And there's some kind of interesting things such as Zoom and the Grand Exchange. However, I'm slightly worried they're not going to be polling that. So, Jagex, if you are watching, please can you poll that. If you want to watch the latest Old School RuneScape poll, please click here for Content Poll 35. And if you want to watch the latest Old School RuneScape update, please click here for Custom F keys and the Music Cape. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and share, and if you want to keep up to date with the Old School RuneScape updates, their vlogs and polls, please subscribe. I've been Lewis, thanks for watching.